Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. As you can see, it's a wet old Saturday morning here in Sydney town, and the wind is coming in from the east, very overcast and but quite balmy, so it's not all that cold. It's actually very, very pleasant and quite beautiful down here by the harbour, and the dark clouds are a beautiful backdrop to these monuments. The Opera House and the Harbour Bridge actually makes them look quite spectacular on days like today. Anyway, what I'd like to do today is take you through a book summary in my traditional form, and the book summary for today is entitled Trust Yourself by an author named Melody Wilding. So it's a book which talks about and details an action plan to help alleviate and deal with the potential for burnout, a condition that impacts many people in their family lives, in their careers, and something for us to be aware of, to be very aware of, and to keep an eye out for our friends and family, to make sure that we can help them when they go through their challenging times, because I guess we've all been there. You know, we've all worked for businesses, for corporations. We've all been part of teams where there's been a constant push for outcomes, for delivery, and it becomes a lifestyle if you're not careful. Before you know it, you just get swept up in the vortex of achievement, and once you're swept up, once you're caught in it, then it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to extract yourself, because you've set an example, you've set a standard, and once you've set that standard, then you need to keep on delivering to that standard, else you feel as if you're a failure, and you basically feel depressed and unhappy, which will eventually lead to lower performance, lower achievement, and further issues along the way. The author describes this in interesting terms, and the author says that the thrill of achievement may be temporarily satisfying. The thrill of achievement may be temporarily satisfying, but when the high inevitably wears off, these sensitivity strivers, I should say, are left with a stinking sense of dissatisfaction and loss. So the author raises a definition of a type of person known as a sensitivity striver, which we will examine and look into and try and understand a little bit better, and see how that definition impacts a certain group of people and what we can do to work around it. So once again, this book here, as we said, is a book designed to help us understand, to prevent and to overcome burnout. So all of us at some point, which is realistically to say, all of us at some point will experience anxiety in life, trying to get everything right all the time. You know, I guess it's just a normal sort of way of living. where you're trying to do everything for everybody, getting it right every single time. But with that comes a incredible cost, and that's a cost of being stressed, being anxious, and being unhappy with yourself, because there are many first, second, and third level consequences that come with this unceasing sense of never-ending anxiety. So the first formal point to come from this book is where the author says that in order to be successful, you must first become self-aware, and to understand that not everybody is a sensitivity striver. Not everybody has high levels of anxiety. It's people who are highly emotional that are most prone to being sensitive strivers, because these high emotional, or people who are highly strung and highly emotional are the ones who are going to cause stress to themselves, but also stress to others. The others being the family members, others being people who work with you. So you got to understand that the issues, the problems that are created by a sensitive striver not only impact their health, their enjoyment, their life, but it also impacts a number of other people around them, either directly or indirectly. It's important to clasp that the impact is universal. So who are the emotional people? The people who feel emotions deeper than other people. And there are certain cultural aspects to it as well. You know, there are certain cultures that are a lot more emotional than other cultures. For example, I have a Greek background. I've grown up in a Greek family. I've grown up in a Greek sort of environment with friends of mine who are Greek. And you tend to be able to compare and contrast different things when growing up, and understand that there are differences in cultures. Some cultures, some people, some family types, some professions actually feel emotions deeper. And to look at some of the qualities of stressful strivers is to understand them a little bit better. These people tend to be thoughtful. They tend to be sensitive. They tend to be responsible, have a sense of responsibility and accountability, which they take on board and take very seriously. They also are very vigilant and diligent. They have an inner drive which expresses itself in emotion, in a feeling. And that emotion could be a positive emotion, an empowering emotion, or it could be a negative or a disempowering emotion. And it's when these emotions are taken to the extreme, it's then that they can cause problems and become a severe liability on the person who feels them, on the person who expresses them, but as we said before, but also indirectly they can radiate to people in the social circle, or in the social orbit, or the work orbit. So what do we learn, or what do we glean from these points? It's the people who want to be people pleasers. It's the people who want to avoid conflict at every cost that are the people who are going to have and create the greatest issues. So the author then goes on to enlighten us and to teach us about another concept, and it's a concept of the honor roll hangover. And it becomes the biggest obstacle that stressful striders will face because they're always trying to extend themselves, they're always trying to overachieve, they're always trying to over-deliver, to become their best self. But when we look behind the curtain, when we look at it a little bit deeper, what we find is that these overachievers are people who are, as we said before, people pleasers, but they seek validation in various forms of approval. They need to be approved of. They need to be stroked all the time. And they seek this validation in the form of approval, promotion, profile, advertisement, people talking about them, people telling them how special they are. And there are lots of ways that this is expressed. But what will happen is that the more that you seek approval, the more that people keep you bubbling along with their fake approval and their fake promotion of you, is what will create the addiction. And once addicted, as we've said before, then you can't really get rid of it, or that you're stuck with it for the rest of the time that you're in that career until you break away. And a lot of people end up leaving their jobs because they just can't get rid, they can't unshackle themselves from the addiction, from the rat race, from that treadmill that they're stuck on. And this is something that managers and business leaders and family members need to understand, that you need to give time, you need to give people an opportunity to break away, to free themselves without them having to pull up stumps and get up and leave. Because when somebody leaves a business, when a high achiever, a high biller, $1 million a year biller gets up and leaves the business, you simply can't replace them with somebody else, because these people have an X factor which not very many people have, and not very many businesses can attract or buy. So once you have these people get up and go, then you've got yourself a bigger problem, because it's a cultural problem that your organisation has or your family has that doesn't hold on to, doesn't nurture, doesn't gain from, because it ends up killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. So there is a sickness that can be that can be caused by this achievement addiction. This a constant need to be productive, to be perfect, to be busy. We've seen it time and time again. I've worked in lots of organisations where people are busy to the point where it kills their relationship with their spouses. It ruins their family life, it ruins their social life, and it ends up ruining the person. This constant need to be productive, to be perfect. Because what happens is it leads to a sense of guilt, a sense of high anxiety, which is detrimental to your inner peace, and you just can't get out. You just can't escape from it, other than to just give up completely, to make a sea change, or to make a complete career change, where your fantastic skills, where your experience, where your network is basically annihilated. You no longer use it, and it's lost forever and a day. So what the author here is saying in this book is that we need to learn, A, to be self-aware, and to understand that we have these issues, we have these things nipping at our heels all the time, and to be aware of it, and to learn how to prioritize, and to ditch the fear of missing out, just to do the things that are necessary for you to be successful. Because at the end of the day, what I've learned over the years, if people like you, then you're always going to have a job, regardless of your performance. But if people don't like you, for whatever reason, regardless of your performance, they're going to shaft you, they're going to undermine you, they're going to cause you grief, and you're going to end up leaving anyway. So if you've got the X factor, which people find appealing, then just do whatever is necessary to keep on bubbling along without killing yourself trying to always be the top performer. Because sometimes top performers are people who don't have to do very much. The work comes to them, the achievement comes to them because of that X factor that they radiate. So stop is the third formal point to come out of this book. Stop being an overthinker, because this overthinking is something that will end up sabotaging you in many ways, even ways that you're not even aware of. Because as we know, there is a constant chatter, and this constant chatter affects decision making, affects your rational thought processes. It brings along analysis paralysis. And you've got to understand that a lot of the stories that we keep on saying to ourselves, a lot of the self-talk, a lot of the negative, unproductive self-talk, the stories that keep on mulling around in our minds aren't real. And they are not always true, I guess, is another big point that comes from this author. So you need to challenge those stories, and you need to understand that less than 10% of the fears, the uncertainties and the doubts that you have will ever come to fruition. So in many ways, just tell them to piss off and not to worry about things, because they don't necessarily reflect reality. It's a big point. It's something which is critical to understand, that a lot of the self-talk, a lot of the stories that we say to ourselves, others say to us, a lot of the fears are irrational fears and will never ever come true, and basically will never reflect or become reality. So the author here encourages us in a call to action to name and reframe a lot of the fears and a lot of the stories that we have, in order to refine our opinions of ourselves and to live a more peaceful life, a more fulfilled life, without trying to be everything to everybody all the time. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club, where I come to you from this magnificent location here at Circular Quay. I'm on top of the Quay restaurant at this circular platform, which is absolutely magnificent. You can just come here and just sit here, for 10 minutes, for an hour. You could almost probably come up here with your lunch and spend the day here, because there's always something happening with the ferries going and coming, and you've got some of the most magnificent monuments in the world surrounding you. And as we say, the day just changes with the weather. It's sometimes cloudy, it's sometimes blue skied from here, but it always, night and day, is a wonderful place to come and spend some time. So take care, everybody. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. And I look forward to coming to you again from a different location with a different message of empowerment, where we go through a book summary, where we go through and embody OPE, other people's experiences, and learn to incorporate them in ways which are productive and empowering in our lives. So yassas, take care, and until we chat again, bye for now.